Good afternoon, and good afternoon. Am I on? There I am. I'm good. Good afternoon, and welcome back to Channel World Seed, where we are discussing consumer perception and acceptance of genome-edited products. Our panelists today will be exploring the factors which influence public perception, the significance of transparency and clear communication, and the importance of fostering informed dialogue and trust amongst stakeholders to navigate the evolving landscape of genome-edited products in the marketplace. I'm going to start by introducing our panel here. To our left here we have Alperen Öztürk, who is a plant genetic engineer fellow is studying in Japan, and he's also a member of the NGIN delegation. Next to him we have Alejandra Castillo, who's the president and CEO of the North American Export Grain Association. And then we have Miriam Wolk, who is the Chief Membership Officer of the International Fresh Produce Association, and Naomi Stevens, who is the Chair of the Coordination Group on Plant Breeding and Innovation at Bayer. And next to me, we have Shimpei Takeshita, who is the Representative Director President of Sanatech Seed. And I'm going to start by asking you to introduce your organization and your interest in this topic. And Naomi, I'm going to come to you first.
Yes. Thank you very much, and hello everyone. I am actually in policy advocacy at Bayer, where I have actually worked for 30 years this year at Bayer. For the International Seed Federation, I am chairing the group on plant breeding innovation, and very excited to be here to continue the journey on consumer acceptance on this very, very important technology.
Thank you, Naomi. And Alejandra, can you introduce yourself, please?
Thank you, Claire. Good afternoon. My name is Alejandra Castillo. I'm here representing the North American Export Grain Association, and we are a trade association that represents the U.S. and Canadian exporters. We are the commercial arm of U.S. and Canadian agriculture. And the interest in this topic is, we coexist in this environment, and it is important to ensure that decisions that are being made within this industry are based on science, are reliable, are transparent, and that we foster a collaborative approach to the grain trade and the seed industry as well.
Thank you, Alejandra. And Miriam?
Thanks, Claire. I'm Miriam Wolk. I'm the Chief Membership Officer for IFPA, the International Fresh Produce Association, and we're the largest full supply chain organization representing the global fresh produce and floral industries. So our members start with seed producers, variety development, and go all the way from grower, shipper, marketers to retail. And this topic's really interesting to me for a number of reasons. Our members are all really interested in innovation, technology, and how they're going to be able to deliver a competitive and great tasting product in the future. So obviously this topic is huge for our members to be able to do that. And at the same time, we work closely to help our members understand consumer perception. And so again, how we can make sure our members understand the benefits of these technologies and how it can bring them a great eating experience.
Thank you so much. And Shimpei?
I'm Shimpei Takeshita from Sanatech, Tokyo, Japan. And we are commercializing our first CRISPR gene editing tomatoes. And then we are increasing number of shops. And for us, public perception is being successful in business. And I think collaboration is key. And I'd like to be here to collaborate all the colleagues together and like to lead future potential growth by application of great technology gene editing. Thank you.
Thank you. And Alperen, last but not least.
Thank you, Claire. My name is Alperen Öztürk. I'm from Turkey originally, but I'm doing my master's degree in Japan with the Japanese government scholarship in CRISPR-Cas9 genome editing technology. I'm here I'm representing youth. I'm part of the Next Generation Agriculture Impact Network NGIN. And as an organization, we are bringing youth voice from all over the world to conferences and venues like this here in the World Seed Congress. And I also have a huge interest in science communications. And I'm not only trying to produce useful science for the people, but I'm also trying to make people understand what we are doing so they can accept our innovations and we can just keep doing our job with a higher motivation. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Alperen. And I'm going to begin by asking you, why is this such an important conversation that we are having right now? And what benefits could some of these genome editing technologies offer, particularly in light of some of the big challenges facing society? Naomi, I'm going to come to you first on that.
Yeah, thank you. So the big challenges, we're all aware, climate crisis. We need to breed plants as fast as we can to adapt to and be resilient to the climate crisis. We know there's also hunger and nutrition issue, and that's why it's very nice from a Bayer perspective that we are here to deliver health for all and hunger for none. So for these innovations, they're a critical part of our considerations to bring solutions that deal with these crises and to bring them very efficiently and cost effectively for all to use.
And of course, Miriam, you were talking about consumer perception very much for the work that you're in. So why is this conversation so important?
Well, absolutely. I think there's a lot of confusion among consumers about what exactly gene-edited products are, but we know that consumers are looking for a more sustainable product. They're looking to explore new flavors. They're looking to explore new health benefits. So if we're able to talk to consumers about the benefits of gene editing there, I think it's going to clear up some of the confusion and maybe make consumers a little bit more interested in trying these products. We're going to need them. As Naomi mentioned, we have climate changes that are going to change how fresh produce is grown. And so if we're able to use technology in order to develop products, consumers are going to be able to get behind that.
And just getting into the actual, what is genome editing and what does it mean to consumers? Maybe that's something we should be talking about. What are their concerns? What is the perception? I mean, Alperen, do you maybe want to comment on that in the line of the work that you're doing?
So when I'm sure people knows more like GMO, and there are different countries, they have different legislations. Some of them consider GMO and genome editing as the same, a same project. But for instance, in Japan is the world lead, and Japanese court separated GMO and genome editing in 2017 from each other. And in Japan, genome editing is considered as the same as conventional plant breeding. And basically, genetic modification, you insert a foreign gene into an organism from different species. But in genome editing, you just change what is inside the genome, which might also occur, which can also occur naturally, and also which is occurring in the nature. And this is coming from nature. And this technology was awarded with the Nobel Prize. I'm not sure, I think it's 2014. So this is a very different than genomic modification, but we just need people to understand that how different it is really, so they will be less afraid, so they will be more open to consume these new innovations.
Thank you. And Naomi, what does genome editing mean to consumers?
Yeah, and a really important mention of nature and understanding the connection to nature, because consumers understand what is relevant to nature. They don't always understand innovation, and we continue to track how they're thinking about and responding to our products in the marketplace. And it varies. It varies very much with experiences, and the GMO background that they've experienced has also meant, a lot of consumers have heard about GMOs. They don't all understand it. So therefore, helping to continue to explain about the science is a critical element to attend to.
And Shimpei, coming to you, what are the factors that are really influencing public perception and behaviour? Because obviously it's a very different situation in Japan. Can you share a little bit about that?
I think sharing experience is very important for the new product or new concept. And for us, it is first step for us to distribute free sample of seedling to the home gardener. And then home gardeners enjoy tomato cultivation in their home and enjoyable experience in cultivation and daily cooking, and then connect it with positive vibes, and then sending their expression for their health benefit things or so technology things, sharing it together. So experience is very important to share with industry and consumer.
And for those that might not know your line of work, can you share a little bit about the project that we're talking about here?
Say that again?
Sorry, for those that maybe don't know the line of work, and at Sanatech as well, can you share a little bit of background about what you're referring to in terms of the product?
All right. So Japan government have been doing some national research to develop some novel GABA ingredient, which is alleviate blood pressure or improvement of skin. And then there's some looking for some academia professor looking for some collaborator to provide some breeding lines.
Okay.
And we have quite a new city company, so we take advantage of the opportunity because for us it is a chance for us to be a unique product for consumer. Actually, GABA is quite a famous ingredient and already distributed health claiming product. So very good opportunity for us at that time.
And we'll definitely come back to that later. And Alejandra, I might come back to you on the question I asked Shimpei about what are the factors that are influencing public perception and behaviours towards genome edited technologies.
Yeah, in the grain trade, for us, it's really important, as most of us have already talked about, the transparency and the aspect of security and safety. We were talking about GMOs, and I've always felt that was the beginning of this entire conversation, and it's disconcerting when we hear conversations around, are GMO safe? And that's very much a part of consumer perception, right?
Yeah.
And so for us in the industry, and I'm speaking as a whole in the ecosystem, it is incredibly critical that we continue to talk about science-based approaches to gene editing, as well as the other parts of the industry that are touched by this topic. And for the grain trade, we are moving food and feed. And so for us, it is imperative that the supply chain remains reliable and safe and based on science before we move forward on anything else.
And Naomi, I'll bring you in there because obviously you spent a lot of time working in this regulatory space. What lessons have you learned from that experience moving forward?
And I would be remiss without mentioning also not only the science but plant breeding as a basis. And I think consumers are aware of plant breeding, and we can use this as a key pillar to move on. I really like the example from Japan because the government has taken the initiative to also play a role in communicating and educating consumers. That's important, but it's also a role for the entire value chain. So to have us all here recognising our responsibilities to contribute to consumer understanding and awareness, to bring transparency to the discussion is very important. But consumers in the end don't necessarily want to hear from big companies or even small companies. They want to hear from governments in some places, but other sources that are important and credible for them. So industry's role in particular is to help those other sources all be aware of what messages could be relevant and supportive in this discussion as well.
Thank you. And has there been any particular, I think we had a slight mention from Alperen earlier about any milestones which have really impacted and changed public opinion and levels of acceptance. If anyone would like to expand a little bit on any milestones within the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing that came to mind to me, in 2021, the New York Times published a front page story on the purple tomato. And I think it was really the first time in mainstream consumer media that gene-edited produce was really painted in a positive light. It wasn't so much talking about growing techniques that were far away from the consumer, but it talked about flavor, it talked about health benefits.
Yeah.
And I'm really starting to see that shift when it comes to how the media is talking about the possibility with gene-edited products, really focusing on that flavor. And so I'm excited to see what the frontier is here.
Thank you. And I will go to the audience. If there's anyone who's got a question at this time, please do raise your hand. I'm aware there's a microphone that we can pass over to you. If there's anybody. Don't be shy, but if you are, I'll come back to you. We've got a gentleman in the back. Please, can you introduce yourself to the panel as well? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Philip Knudde from Corteva. Often when we talk about consumer perceptions, right, there is a difference made between generations and ranges of acceptance. Could you comment on that? And is there hope for the younger generation to be more acceptable?
Thank you. Yeah. And that's definitely a question I was going to pose to Alperen a little bit later in some of the work you're doing. So I might kick off with you, Alperen, on that one.
I think young generation is more open to consume new innovations, but at the same time, still many young people, they don't really understand what is it. And when you ask them, like, oh, what do you think about this? Like I ask all my friends, always my friends in Japan or in Europe or in my home country, Turkey. Like usually, like people who are not into this field and this science, they are like, oh, like gene sounds scary, like, or genome or modification or editing just sounds like, doesn't sound really safe. But like there is my future PhD supervisor published an article 2 years ago about this whole like a review. And like 70 countries, around 70 countries has done like more than 4,000 studies on if GMO is safe or not. And they definitely don't pose any like risk to public or environment compared to conventional bred species. So we just need to go for like more positive communication. So I think this is the key. So we can convince more people and we can just tell them the truth by using the simple words and simplifying the science. Maybe we can find some words or some definitions. Like what's the gene? Like we should consider all of them as like a 5-year-old kid level, and we should tell everything very like in the simplest way possible, because people are afraid when they don't understand things. So we should, I think, avoid this, and this is my passion right now. But I think in Japan example, for instance, Japan is very like we can say the first country. But even in Japan, like people really don't know about this Japanese innovations, and they don't know Japan is a world lead. And the Sanatech, they're doing an amazing job. Like people even don't know that, so I think we should just try to engage more youth and youth group who are like representing the voice of the young generations everywhere. So they can just bring it up and like combine with young power and just speak up about these facts and just like we can hope. Maybe we don't see the change very soon, but we can hope to see like positive changes in like next 5 or 10 years because these things takes time because it's like a process. So I think in the young generation, it will get better if we keep doing this positive communication in next 5 or 10 years. And I'm as a young person, I have a huge faith in youth, and so I can say time will tell what we will see in 10 years from now.
Wonderful. And Miriam, do you want to add to that, the generational approach?
I would love to. So I think there's a real strong opportunity to talk about this in the context of sustainability. We know that the rising generation is really interested in sustainability. They want to support a sustainable product. So there's a way to talk about gene-edited work and how it can develop a more sustainable future. So I think bringing those two together is going to be a great opportunity to educate future consumers.
And I guess just picking up on what Alperen was saying, and I'll maybe ask this to you, Naomi, are we doing a good enough job at communicating at the moment? I mean, maybe it's like when I was prepping for this panel as well today, everybody that's listening in here has a bit of a basic understanding of genome editing technologies, but wider afield, are we actually getting those messages out there? And what do we need to do differently?
Well, we could ask the audience as well. Do you feel that we're communicating well enough yet? I don't see anybody nodding. So, and I think obviously terminology is a starting place, and at the industry level, we've talked about the glossary of even the regulators are using different terms around the world. The lesson we learnt from our recent past history was try to avoid a 3-letter acronym like GMO. We have PBI. I'm not sure that we quite manage it yet, but our work was to try and look at plant breeding innovations as an evolution of multiple tools. So we've got a few lessons learned, but we have to keep communicating and not think that one round of discussions with the young generation will be sufficient. We need to keep continuing to address the same audiences and then the newer audiences with the basic messages about where plants come from and how they're bred and how we are striving to improve them for centuries. So this is, yes, another tool that we need. So.
Brilliant. And Alejandra, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely second the glossary piece. Yeah. I think that's incredibly important. Every day there's a new term and acronym. But more importantly, I think we need to do a better job of the narrative of agriculture. It's not just the plant breeding innovation and all the technology that's happening there, but it's also, drought disease, drought control, disease control, and everything else that we have done over the course of the last few decades to increase agricultural production, to increase our reach to areas of deficit of food and feed, which eventually becomes food as well. And so that piece of the narrative is not often included. Over the course of the last two days here, we've heard a lot about transparency and collaboration, and we've also heard a lot about clarity and clarifying what is and what isn't within this particular topic. I think it's really important. But equally important is to be able to tell the entire story of the value chain, that it doesn't just affect one sector. It starts at the seed all the way to the export and destination and how we use that technology.
And Shimpei, I'm going to come to you and then Miriam on this question here. But it's about when a product reaches the market, that accountability, where does the responsibility lie at this stage?
Responsibility to deliver tasty and consistently high concentrated GABA tomatoes, and then labeling is a kind of part of transparency, and we are consistently labeled a proactive message, which is our product is created by gene editing for your health. So not only technology, but also our thought to deliver the health for the customer one by one. Such kind of proactive labeling is is engagement in the detail. Yeah.
Thank you. And Miriam, from the consumer perspective, that accountability piece is very important.
Oh, absolutely. And I want to echo what my fellow panelists have said, is the entire value chain plays a role here.
Yeah.
So consumers have a high amount of trust in their retailer. At the same time, retailers need information from the growers that bring products to them. The growers need information about the background from the variety developers. So I think if all of these groups can work together, they can put a compelling story together for consumers.
Thank you. Oh, Alejandra, of course.
I would just like to add, from the accountability perspective for the grain trade, that is a key sector or area for us, particularly because there are so many players that are coming into the market that are putting out products, that are putting out technology that we don't always hear about, or we hear about until the very end. And so for us in the grain industry, really having that transparency, not just on what is coming out, but all the players that are coming into the market, so that we can have a conversation and a protocol developed to understand what are those products that are coming out before they come out and come into the market and can create trade disruption. That's a really important aspect that piece of accountability is very important for us too.
Thank you. And Alperen, I'm going to come back to you a little bit on the gentleman's youth question here. We've just had a youth panel beforehand, and we were just explaining all the different careers that we have across the seed sector. Why did you choose what you're doing? What excited you about working in this space?
Well, actually, my stories began when I watched a movie called Gattaca. Like, I didn't really know about these things. And that movie really inspired me, that I just learned that, oh, we can change like humans' genome and turn them into like something, like a superior human. But it also has like some pros and cons at the same time, because nothing is perfect. So like when I just watched that movie, I just started to make a little bit of research about it.
Yeah.
And I ended up learning about CRISPR technology. And then I was lucky to join a lab in my home university, because at that time, like when I was in undergrad, it wasn't the most common thing in Turkey to work in CRISPR and agriculture. It was mostly in human sciences and animal sciences. So I had the chance to join and explore this technology. And my passion is like, we have like doctors, the medicine, or we can use this technology for animal breeding or like superior human improvement. But at the same time, if those people are hungry, how are going to do science? If a doctor is hungry, how can they do surgeries? So like I just thought like, okay, then feeding people is more important than improving the people, because first you should improve them. And then that's my inspiration. So I just want to, for the future, I just want to work on like huge projects for my PhD, and after my PhD, and just contribute the future's food security in the best way possible. So it's a higher purpose than what I want to for my personality or my personal interest. So basically, it all started with the movie called Gattaca. Yeah.
There you go. Is there any other questions from the audience? I'm looking round. You've got a we've got a question just here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Emiliano, and as Alperen, I am also part of the NGIN delegation. And I want to ask, because over the last years, I have been seeing a lot of stakeholders, particularly NGOs, that are playing an important role in the diffusion of the information that public is reaching. And for me, as a biotechnologist, I am seeing that in the wrong way. They are proposing like uninformed discussion. Yeah. And how can we avoid that? Because the public is going to believe what is being reached by them. So yeah, that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Emiliano. Would anyone like to take that lead on that question?
Sure.
Naomi, thank you.
Great question. And I think it comes back to who are the credible sources for the various stakeholders. Who do they want to hear that from? The farmer's voice, for example. We need to harness that in terms of the recipients of this innovation. Why is it important for them to have the latest tools of breeding and to have them in an effective and affordable way? So I think, as we saw also in the GMO discussions, very polarised, but until you get people who really have a lot at stake to explain why this is so important, I think we're missing part of the story. So I think that will develop in the coming years, and particularly with more and more products to be able to talk about and to feel and touch and taste. That's the experience as well. So having those those interactions with farmers and consumers and NGOs is important.
And Miriam, would you agree?
Yeah, this reminds me a lot of times in the association world, we have to bring together different people that have different points of view. And so I think it's important to bring together some of these NGOs, understand what their concerns are, and then share with them the science and the benefits behind it, and have a productive conversation. The worst thing you can do when people disagree is to not have a conversation at all. So hopefully, by bringing the information to some of these groups that have questions or concerns, we can change their minds.
And I guess just in the last couple of minutes, I'd ask all of you briefly, what do you think the next steps the seed sector should be doing to really sort of have more of these transparent conversations around around genome editing technologies? What's the basic step we should all be looking at first on this? Alperen, I'll come to you first.
Well, I'm not really industry person, and I don't really have a background, but I will say as a consumer, I think transparency is a key. First of all, I think people should believe that some people believe that there are some evil scientists that are doing bad science just to make money. So I think to prevent that, we should just increase the transparency of the companies, which is also not good for companies. It's it's a very controversial topic. But I think the companies, they try to be as clean and as transparent as possible for the public. I don't know, maybe just have a public day. They can just host random people in the companies, just tell them what they are doing in the simplest way.
Okay.
So it could be a first step for improving something in the consumer perception.
That sounds like a great idea. Alejandra, what would you add to that?
I would say this is a good start, and in the last couple of days we've heard a lot about engagement. And one of us mentioned engagement with other sectors and making sure that the entire value chain is heard. I think one of our speakers yesterday mentioned as a farmer that they sometimes felt left out of these conversations. And so creating venues or fora where every single supplier within the supply chain can be present and have a voice and actively seek them out if they don't want to participate. I think it's one of the ways that we can have a more constructive conversation.
And Miriam?
Yeah, echoing what Alejandra said, we've got to bring the entire value chain together to have these conversations, and that includes going all the way up to retail. So every different segment of the industry can play a role in this, and I think as long as everyone is working off the same information, they're aligned, we're going to be able to paint a positive picture to consumers.
Thank you. And Naomi?
Yes. Let's keep having smart conversations, using science as a base, keep on measuring the trends of consumer acceptance around our products in different parts of the world, because it does vary. And so base that and have inclusive discussions. So the ICF is a very great forum for us to bring those value chain members and be inclusive of those dialogues.
Thank you. And Shimpei, a last word from yourself on this.
We expanded retail distribution nationwide in Japan, and we completed all the regulatory work in the Philippines last month. And this next summer, we have some production expansion in the U.S. because U.S. Government allows us show guideline to commercialize our high-level tomato in U.S. So production and sales in other country is type of progress for us.
So thank you and thank you for all of you. I think we've had a great conversation today, an informed conversation, and it's something we'll build on moving forward. And thank you for all your contributions today. But we do have to round it up there, I'm afraid. Can we thank all the panelists? Thank you.
Well done.